Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson. I'm feeling a little bit better after making this episode because I'm just getting a little bit more in the zone, a little bit more in the vibes and the feelings. So yeah, feeling a little bit more excited now. So today we're going to talk about internal and external reality and validation and how we kind of work with that. The reason why I thought this is important is because I feel like all of us go through this. There is an internal dialogue that validates or invalidates us, and there's also an external dialogue from people in the world that invalidates and validates us. Feeling valid is such an important thing. And I know we kind of joke about it, or at least I do. But have you ever heard someone be like, you're valid, no matter what, you're valid? I feel like that's something in the trans community that's something we all want to hear, but at this point I feel like it's a meme. Like, yes, wherever you are, you're totally valid and you're so valid, you're valid. Just you go, girl. You know, like, okay, I get it. Everyone's valid, but this is dumb at this point. I feel like it's lost its sense of meaning because everything has become valid. And that on that basis alone, if everything is valid, then nothing can be valid because everything has become valid. Not trying to get on a soapbox and talk about that though. What we're talking about today is this internal external dialogue. And I want to bring this up because it came up for me earlier this week. I talked about this gender dysphoria, extreme gender dysphoria that I had on Monday, and it was all about the internal dialogue, basically. My internal dialogue had said to me, your perception of feeling and believing as a real woman is invalid. It was saying that to me on Monday because I had broken my internal gender model, which we talked about yesterday. And that like internal dialogue was something I had to work through and face, and it's sometimes preferable. I don't know how you deal with your own negative internal dialogue, but for me, the first initiation that I do is to try and speak to it in the same language that it is speaking to me. And how does that work out for you? Sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't work. And when it's very strong, it feels like climbing up a hill that you can't really get up. And so I had to approach it from a different angle. I had to find physical action. I had to find things to do that got around it, because trying to change its voice and talk back at it wasn't really helping. It felt like I was digging a deeper hole. Now, at the same time, I was upset about this and feeling really terrible, but the next thing that I do you do this? Count my blessings, right? When you're feeling bad, count your blessings. I'm so thankful I'm alive. I'm so thankful that I'm able-bodied. I'm so thankful that I have a home. I'm so thankful that I can eat food. I'm so thankful I have money. You know, like there's so many things you could be thankful for. But sometimes that doesn't work too. Has that happened to you? And you get stuck in this weird position where you say, okay, on a level, I cognitively understand that everything is fine. I also understand that my life is great. I'm in a good place. My life is okay, or wherever. I'm safe. I'm okay. But that still doesn't help. And what do you do then? What do you do then? What do you do when you realize everything's fine, but nothing feels fine? You know what I did? I said, fine. If nothing's fine, fine. I'm just going to take a vacation. I'm going to be my own boss, and I'm just going to say, you know what? You don't have to make a video today. You don't have to exercise today. Like, I have my to-do list, and I checked off the ones that I could do. And that's all I did. And you know what? I felt a sense of accomplishment in being able to even do those small things that I could do, the less things than I plan to do, and in most situations I would feel awful about. But being able to do those small things and celebrate those helped show me that there's a positive feeling inside me that can be cultivated. And just like climbing out of what felt like being thrown into a hole, climbing out of that hole was a little bit better just because I made smaller, measurable things that I could do to take action on that could make me happy and make me feel satisfied. And that is how I overcame my internal negative self-talk. But what is the internal negative self-talk and its relation with the external talk? This kind of crossing of boundaries is really mysterious because it's not like it's a one-to-one where you take information in and you just absorb it. If that was the case, then I would have done much better in school because you could just listen and you could just be like, okay, just feed it into my head, please, because I'm just going to absorb everything. How did you do in school? Were you a sponge or were you a misfit, or did you not listen very well? I personally had a very hard time listening because I had ADHD, and so I would draw and do my best to stay attention by stimulating myself. And when we receive information, when we get information in, there's actually this barrier. So when I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to your barrier. Your barrier is what I would call your self-teacher and your the person that teaches to yourself. It's like your guardian. I'm speaking to the version of yourself that then teaches yourself things and sorts through things that are not worth learning or protects you from things that are negative and speaks directly to your internal self, which is a part of your internal dialogue. You know, now that we're talking about this, I feel like the internal dialogue that I was struggling with was also this external teacher, but maybe a different form of the teacher. That there's an internal being that is receptive to information, and then there's another version of that being that kind of speaks to it. The internal dialogue must be this third party, this voice that then speaks to you and then affects you. And this same third party is the one that I'm speaking to now because it absorbs the information and it sorts through the things that you want to actually internalize or find helpful, and then it transfers into you. Does that make sense? And so when we're thinking about the external world and external dialogue and external information and how we work through that world, understanding that there's a part of us that actually blocks and defends and takes this information in can help us understand about our relationship with the external world and how it communicates to us. Because sometimes it has a direct line and it can hit you in a way that does not feel good. And those are your belief systems. If you believe that you're not a woman or not a man or not who you are, and someone misgenders you, that's going to push you over very, very hard because that belief system is so deep and ingrained that it just passes right through your defenses because there's no skeptic in the way. There's no way of defending yourself. It just goes straight into your mind, into your body, and you believe it because that's what you believe, that you're not actually a woman or that you're trans or what have you. Yeah, this happened to me in the first stages of my transition. Has that happened to you? Have you noticed that the things that you believe in are a lot easier to have that kind of direct connection? It's pluses and minuses, because I'm sure on some level we communicate and connect on a deeper level because I am trans, because you are trans, and we are speaking in our trans language to each other. We share a belief that allows the barriers of skepticism to kind of come down and us to kind of speak more closely to one-to-one. But there's also these layers of different philosophy and different perception and different life experience that might mean that sometimes we don't speak to one-to-one, and that's totally healthy. But that kind of relationship between these different dialogues and different modes of receiving and also being skeptical and sorting through these things is what I wanted to point to today. So thank you for joining me for tea time, and I will see you in the next episode. Please like and subscribe if this is new for you, and please write me a comment down below of topics you'd like to explore or what you thought of this video. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, and so with that, I will say goodbye. Tschüss.